Good evening, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reich. This is Crime Talk. It's Tuesday, November 9th. This is our Tuesday night live show. Let me apologize for last week. We didn't do a live show. There were some scheduling issues. We thought we were going to be able to do it. We brought you a show while I was on the road. 4 of the 5 days last week. Friday didn't quite work out. Was going to fly back from Tampa and got delayed because there was some bad weather, lightning, what have you, and basically just did not get it done. So my apologies. My apologies for not having the live show last week as well. But sometimes things don't always work out the way we hope they will in life. I think that's why they call it life. So thank you all for joining me. For those of you who do not know, maybe it's your first time, my name is Scott Reich. I'm a practicing criminal defense lawyer here in the great state of Colorado. And I've been doing this whole lawyer gig thing for going on 26 years, doing primarily criminal defense. So when you want to talk about a criminal case, I can probably say, yep, I've handled one of those. Yep, I've dealt with that. And I have found that... Well, we were just talking about this before it started. It is interesting to me, okay, how so many people can say a particular defendant is guilty, they're not guilty, blah, 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 and they just don't look at the facts. They have made their mind up and they never have to change their mind. And, that's kind of the thing about, I think as I've gotten older, I was younger. It was all very black and white. This is the way it is. There's right and wrong. That's it. But as you get older, I think, and maybe it's because you do get older, you realize, hey, what works for me may not necessarily work for somebody else, and vice versa. You can't have a cookie cutter approach to everything. And guess what? You're never always right. Never. Okay? I'm not always right. And one thing I've learned in life is, particularly doing criminal defense, you have to wait and see. Okay? I have had many a case over the years where I thought, oh my gosh, if everything that the client had just told me is true, this is going to be the greatest case ever. This is amazing. This is a travesty of a travesty of a mockery of a sham. Why would they be prosecuting my client? This is horrible. And then I've had cases where I thought, oh my gosh, this case is terrible. We have nothing. We're going to have to go grovel for any kind of good disposition to resolve the case. And then something happens. You get the discovery. That's like kind of hearing the other side of the argument, right? What do the other people say? And so now when clients come in, I'm like, okay, why don't you tell me generally what you recall? Okay. But let's wait and see how they wrote it up. Let's see what's on the body cams. Because, sometimes people don't always tell you the whole set of truth. It's just the way it is. People don't want to make themselves look bad by saying that they did something bad. So they have to you have to hold off. People always want to, portray themselves in a much better light. And as I've gotten older, I've come to the realization I really don't care what people think. I'm just going to do what makes me happy. Okay. But there's some people I noticed in the comments tonight, and it's just that Kyle Rittenhouse, that kid is guilty. He killed 2 people. He injured another. He's just guilty. Why is he running around the streets at 18? I get it. Like his mom, what the hell was she thinking, right? And when the case first started, I was like, oh, this is not good, this Rittenhouse kid. And then, early on, we actually had somebody that sent some video early on to us. And I'm like, I don't think this is clear cut as they say it was. And as time progressed, I'm like, I'm going to hold judgment. And then I'm thinking, this kid maybe not going to get convicted of everything, but he's going to get convicted of, the stuff like having a rifle under the age of 18. And frankly, let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, that is the least of Kyle Rittenhouse's issues, right? But they've had now 2 witnesses from the prosecution that could have been defense witnesses. One being this Mr. Kreuzberg, and I'm probably mispronouncing his name, but he was the guy that was shot in the arm, right, as he's coming up. But it wasn't until cross-examination, okay, And the United States Supreme Court has said cross-examination is the defining moment in a trial, right? You have a witness who has to answer the questions. And I know we put in the cross-examination of this Cruz guy, Gross Cruz, I think is his name. And he's like, well, I was a victim. And, let's back up here. Well, you were charging at Mr. Rittenhouse with a loaded Glock, right? Yes. And the only time he pointed the gun at you is when you pointed a loaded gun at his head. Yes. And then he kind of fudged a little bit and didn't want to answer the question. But ultimately, the lawyer got him saying, and the only time that he pulled the trigger was when you pointed the gun at him and he was on the ground and you were pointing the gun at him, correct? Yes. All right. And that's when you got shot. Yeah. Like, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what part of the country you live in. But, that warrants a self-defense instruction. Now, it'll ultimately be up to the jurors to decide whether they believe that was self-defense or not. But the self-defense instruction's coming in, okay? You really, and some people are like, Scott, how can you say that these people are a bunch of Antifas? Okay, I'm not saying all the rioters up there were Antifa, but they were out there. A lot of them weren't peaceful protesting, and I'm a firm advocate of constitutional rights and people protesting. That's a First Amendment right. I will let anybody peacefully protest. But as soon as you destroy other people's property, you are no longer a protester. You are a criminal. You have committed an act. And for somebody to say, well, it's okay if I burn this down because they have insurance, that is the biggest pile of horse dung you could possibly imagine. That is not a defense to destroying other people's property, right? What if I walked up and broke the window of your home? You'd probably be upset. And you'd say, what if I say, well, you got insurance. What are you complaining about, right? That's ridiculous. So let's face it. The people out there that night, there was all this stuff going on. They weren't all peaceful protesters. They were out there causing hate and discontent and destroying and breaking things. And guess what? Some of those jurors on that panel there for Kyle Rittenhouse, they may not condone what he did, but they may say that he is justified. They may find him guilty. We don't know, right? I'm just telling you, I think this kid has got a justifiable case in the sense that he's going to get the instruction and the jury's going to decide. And so it just, it's just very, very frustrating when some people can just ignore the facts. And we were kind of talking about this before the show started tonight, is that, I have to change my analysis all the time on cases when they come in. And what changes them? New information. I cannot, and an attorney cannot, ignore new information that comes in on a case. Sometimes it helps you, makes your case better. Sometimes it hurts you and it weakens your case. I don't care whether you're prosecuting a civil case, you're prosecuting a criminal case as a prosecutor, or you're defending it as a defense attorney. The bottom line is that you have to change your analysis based upon new facts. How is this going to be interpreted under the law? How is this going to be perceived by a jury? And I'm telling you, if you don't do that and you can't reassess, and sometimes you don't have the intestinal fortitude to go to your client and say, wow, things just changed real quick. I think we need to go get a deal. Our case, things have turned. I've been on both sides of that. But a lot of people, they sit there and they're a bunch of keyboard warriors. Oh, somebody's guilty. Somebody's absolutely not guilty. Guess what? You've never had to deal with the consequence of making that call. Oh, I come to the conclusion that somebody's guilty or they're innocent just because I believe maybe their political beliefs are the same as mine or they're different than mine, so therefore they're evil, rotten people. Okay. But if if you've never had to deal with the consequences of giving bad advice or being wrong, it's easy to be that armchair, keyboard warrior and, just try to always be right, so to speak. So as things change, like I said early on, I thought this Rittenhouse kid, I was like, oh, man, he's not going to have a chance. But his attorneys have done a great job coming up with the photos and having the exhibits prepared. The prosecutor, I'm not seeing a whole lot of enthusiasm out of him. I was talking to Frank here, like, kind of reminds me of when those prosecutors felt like they had to charge a police officer, but they just kind of go through the motions. Like, oh, did I not do a good job? Oh, I'm sorry that we lost. Oh, that's too bad. Kind of the deals with the DA is like, my boss made me take this case to trial, but he can't make me win it, right? That's kind of the feeling that I get from these prosecutors. I just don't see a whole lot of passion that they're out there doing justice. Not that it matters, but I mean, one of the guys, I mean, it's a lot easier for prosecutors to prosecute a case when you have good victims. Okay. And I'm not saying the victims in this case aren't good people. They may have been very good people. But I think one, if not both of them, had some felony convictions. One was a registered sex offender, and they were out there looting and burning and pillaging. And one was attacking, Rittenhouse with a skateboard. I mean, they got pictures of it. They got pictures of everything. So I don't know. Things aren't always the way you originally think they are. And that's where you really have to dig deep in that intellectual honesty sometimes and say, hey, you know what? I was wrong. I do it all. I mean, literally, I have to say, yep. Sometimes misjudge that one. Didn't see that fact coming. Ooh, where did they find that? Or thinking, well, I hope they don't find that fact. Ooh, they found it. Okay, so now we got to make it up to them. All right. So Tuesday night, that's our live show. This is your show. So I'll try to answer as many questions as you all have. And I see here we have a super chat by James Moen. We don't ask for super chats, but I assure you it is a lot easier to see because, bam, it shows up in big, bold green here on my screen. So James Moen, Scott, you are phenomenal. Thank you very much. I want to know about the South Dakota AG that sickens me about him getting a misdemeanor. Misdemeanors, yeah. The South Dakota Attorney General. Remember, he's the guy that was coming back from a fundraising event and maybe just happened to hit a guy walking along the side of the road. Called the police. Thought maybe he hit a deer, but there was no deer. The police officer let the good AG drive his personal car home, and then his chief of staff and the Attorney General come back the following day and like, oh, there's a body. Oh, look at that. Didn't see him. Oh, and the AG may have sobered up, right? If that had been you or me, ladies and gentlemen, and they found the deceased guy's glasses in the front seat of your car, you would be charged with vehicular assault or the equivalent charge. They may call it something very different in your jurisdiction, but you know what it is. Basically, you killed somebody while you were more than likely intoxicated. All right? But the Attorney General, he got a pass. He got charged because he had, they kind of couldn't ignore it. He killed somebody. At minimum, it was careless, resulting in death. I think ultimately, I don't have my notes in front of me, but he pled guilty, I think, to careless, resulting in injury or something. Had some open jail that he could have got, but he didn't get anything. He got some useful public service and a fine. And why is the good Attorney General's name escaping me? Rosberg or something? Rasenberg. It's pronounced differently than it's spelled, like most names. We probably got it wrong. It's frustrating, and that's what is, I think, frustrating with most people, and you see it in a lot of these cases, is that there's just what's the word I'm looking for? It's just not fair, right? Lady Justice, right? Hold on a second. Wait 1 second. right? Here's the little lady justice statue we had up on the shelf. We got to put the shelves back. I think I just like the shelves better. Can I just tell that to you guys? Okay. Like Lady Justice, right? Scale of justice. The little scales there, they're supposed to, be equal. Lady Justice is blind under the law, right? Doesn't matter who you are, who your daddy is, where you grew up, what the family name is. Everybody's supposed to be treated the same. And then you hear cases where, somebody is a politician or politically connected, and they get courtesies extended to them that neither you nor I would get extended in any way whatsoever. I think the biggest example is if you look at, for example, politics, Washington, D.C., somebody's always under investigation, but nobody ever gets charged. Nearly never, right? And I think that's why people lose a lot of faith in the justice system. And don't get me wrong. I mean, the American justice system, there's a phrase and quote that I saw many years ago. And, it says the American judicial system is absolutely terrible, but it's better than anywhere else in the world. And I pretty much agree with that. I mean, it's not great, but, we got juries that can do it. But it's only as good as the people that are willing to bring the cases. And the problem is all these people go to the same little cocktail parties and they scratch themselves and they, do favors for each other, scratching each other's back. And, when it comes where the rubber meets the road, oh, well, that person made a donation and how's it going to look if I do it? I mean, just let the chips fall where they may. That's where you need to be. I don't know, but that doesn't happen, and that's why I think so many people, lose faith in the justice system because they see it doesn't work fairly for everybody. I don't know. I get frustrated because I have, judges that ignore the law because they don't want a particular result. And that's frustrating as hell. It's like, this is what the statute says. It says you shall do this. Shall is mandatory. There's no exceptions. Well, I'm going to set it over for another. Let's see if we can't. It's kind of like the motion filed in the Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell. The judge has ruled. The judge has ruled that they're going to change the venue for the trial, and the prosecution's going to have to pay for it, understanding that it's going to be an inconvenience to everybody. But the DA files a motion, says, Judge, this is going to be really, really expensive, and how are we going to pay for it? And, well, I don't know. I guess you need to go to your county commissioners and say, guess what? We need to ask for more money. That's the law. He's entitled, the prosecution and the defense are entitled to a fair trial, right? Nowhere in the statute does it say, hey, if it's really expensive, don't give somebody a fair trial. And I'm not advocating for Lori Vallow or Chad Daybell, but that's what the statute says, right? They're entitled to a fair trial. And then, the DA files this, and I'm reading from page 2 of their motion titled, "The Motion for the Court to Allow Additional Evidence Follow Idaho Code 19.18.6 by transportation of a jury." Based on the court now having ordered the case be transferred to Ada County, and this court's previous provision that the parties would be allowed to supplement the evidence and arguments presented at the change of venue hearing, the state is respectfully requesting to be allowed to present even additional information, testimony, and evidence regarding the cost and logistics of transporting a jury from Ada County versus transferring the case as a whole to Ada County. The cost includes additional hardships to Fremont County, hereinafter Fremont and Madison County, regarding manpower, financial expenses, and the impact on the community, taxpayers, and victims. The state requests a hearing to present additional evidence, including all exhibits, documents, detailed information related to costs and hardships. That motion hearing regarding the change of venue has been on the docket almost be from the beginning of the case, which is over a year. And now the prosecutor acts like it just snuck up on them and they weren't prepared to present all this evidence. Okay, fine. The judge understands it's going to be a hardship, but he has a constitutional right or obligation, a constitutional obligation to uphold his jobs and make sure everybody gets a fair trial, which means having a fair jury. I mean, let's face it. The prosecution has just as much responsibility here as into turning the Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell case into a circus, as does, say, Mark Means, okay, and Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell. I mean, they made statements early on. They piecemealed this thing. Well, first we're going to charge abandonment, then we're going to charge some tampering, and then we're going to do this, and then we're finally going to charge murder. You know, like, what did they think was going to happen? They confessed the fact that they couldn't have it in Madison and that they couldn't have it in Madison County, as well as, what was it, Fairfax, I think? Fremont, sorry, Madison, Fremont County. They couldn't have the trial there. They confessed that part of, yeah, can't get a fair trial, but let's ship the jury in. It's less expensive. Oh my gosh. And they're talking, oh, it's going to be a couple of weeks, out of location. Okay, I have done as much as what was that one we went to, Frank? That was only 2 weeks, a week, wasn't it?
What?
The one we did down in La Junta. That was a week trial, right?
Yeah, a week trial, yeah.
Yeah, it was a week trial. Okay, but you pack up everything. I did a 3-week trial, double dead homicide, double dead children case. On the other side of the state, myself and an associate pack up. We rent a house because we didn't want to stay in the hotel for that length of time. We had to make arrangements for food, travel. We basically had to bring everything we could possibly need because we were going on the road. I mean, the prosecutor, they had all their stuff right there at their office. It was really inconvenient for them, or convenient for them, inconvenient for us. So I don't have a whole lot of sympathy for the district attorney having to go to the other side of the state to prove their case. Oh my God, it's almost like being in private practice where you have to go where the court tells you to go, right? Hell, I'm going to Tulsa, Oklahoma on Friday for a case. And then on Monday, I'm going to be in Grand Junction, Colorado again on a case, which is on the other side of the state. You go where the court tells you you're going to go. I just don't have a whole lot of sympathy for that. They had their chance at the hearing and they lost. You don't get to keep coming back for asking for reconsideration. What is it, like that scene from A Few Good Men where like, I strenuously object, Your Honor. Like, okay. And the motion's still denied. And most judges don't reconsider their order because it makes them look wishy-washy. And if the court does that, I'm telling you, it would make Judge Boyce look wishy-washy. He needs to just deny it without a hearing and move on. Okay? All right, let's get some more of the questions here that people have. Just Jake, Scott, I received a jury summons. Would you expect me to disclose that I subscribe to your channel during voir dire? Well, Jake, I don't know. Is it a Denver summons? I don't know. Is it, this local county? You could tell him that, hey, I follow this attorney and he tries to give it to me straight. But guess what? He says that the voir dire process is the most important part of any trial. But let me tell you, I'm here to answer fair and impartial questions to see if I'm one of the best jurors for this case. And I'm really excited to be here because let's face it, people want people that are excited to be at a jury trial. They're going to get engaged. They're going to listen. So tell them you're excited to be here. It's your obligation. And that you follow Scott Reich at CrimeTalk, and he tells people everybody should go do their civic obligation and be excited about jury duty. Yes, it's inconvenient, but I assure you the judge and the district attorney and the defense, if it's a criminal case, are going to do everything that they can to make sure that they minimize the inconvenience to you. And, let's see here. Daniela A., murder is murder. Well, I understand that, Danielle, but no, it's not. Okay, yes, murder is taking, somebody else's life, right? But there are times that the state has said you're justified in murder. And I get it. I mean, that some people say, oh, you kill somebody, go to prison for the rest of your life. It doesn't matter the circumstances whatsoever. I mean, we've talked about cases. How about the guy that, what was it? He killed the guy that had been molesting his sister. He got 14 years. Normally that's a life without prison case. But there's mitigating circumstances, right? And we joke about it's not a defense, but sometimes mitigating circumstances. Sometimes the dead guy deserved killing. Let's face it, there are bad people in the world that go around picking fights, picking on people, and sometimes people shoot back or do whatever things they need to do. So I get it. Murder is bad as a general rule. But guess what? Murder is justified under the law in many, many cases. The state, well, they commit, an execution. It's murder. Is it not? The taking of the life of another person, right? Yes, it is. Police officers can shoot individuals. Why? Because they believe that they were in fear of death or serious bodily injury. It's justified. You, me, we all have a right to defend ourselves if we believe that we are in fear of death or serious bodily injury, right? There's some nuances to it, like are you initial aggressor? Are you not? Do you have to retreat? But the general rule is if somebody's coming at you with, a big old bat or a skateboard or a gun to point it to your head, general rule is you can probably shoot, okay? That's just the way it is. There's also exceptions. In lots of states, they have the castle doctrine or the make my day. If somebody comes into your house and they were not invited, you didn't invite them in there, you can shoot first, ask questions later if you're in fear for your life or that of your family. Justified. So yes, I get it. Murder's wrong. No one's advocating people going around murder, but there are exceptions under the law. And, that's just the way it is. And, I've had DAs over the course of years say, I get it. This dead guy, not a great guy. Not a great guy. Maybe we can make a deal. You know what I mean? Because they recognize that as well. And every life should have value. But let's face it, some lives have more value than others. That's the way the eyes of the court look at it. The law looks at it, and DAs look at it that way as well. Victoria, let's see here. James Moan, I remembered Miss Winnie. This is for her. All right. Thanks there, James. And a lot of people didn't know this. We tried to keep it on the lowdown a little bit because we were out of town. The lovely Miss Kristen and I last week. But the Miss Winnie the Bulldog, 1-year-old. That's right. That's right. Her little doggy sitter that watched her had a little celebration for her. We just got back this weekend, but we'll have one. It'll be a little late. We have to go to the store and get all the little doggy donut holes and pile it up for a big cake or what have you. But yeah, so Miss Winnie 1, and don't forget, you can follow her on Instagram and TikTok. That's right. So yep, it's her birthday. It's her birthday, and she's finally starting to settle down a little bit. I mean, I've had lots of bulldogs over the years. This is my 4th bulldog, and usually they're just the laziest dogs in a good way, in a lovable way. Like my old dog Domino, he used to just kick his legs out, sit in the sun, and just kind of stare at the, little burst of energy. But Miss Winnie, some days, my gosh, she has so much energy. But maybe now that she's 1, I think she's starting to slow down a little bit. Maybe it's the time change. I was told today that she was getting upset that she hadn't been fed yet. So I don't think anybody filled her in on the time change as well. Let's see here. Sit and spin your mom should be able to get compo for future suffering if you're slow service. Let's see here. There was somebody that said you have to get her a pup cake. Yeah, she got a Pup Cup. Was it Saturday? Sunday I went to pick up the lovely Miss Kristen's Starbucks, and I got her a Pup Cup to take back because she loves those too. Kate, the Truth Seeker. Alex Murdaugh is a fine example of someone whose wealth saved him so many times. Listen, there's no doubt in my mind that Alex Murdaugh, and I'm sure the cases will come out long after this case is done, of various fraudulent schemes or scams that Alex Murdaugh engaged in. And the guy just can't help himself. And I get it. He's trying to do some legal maneuvering before the receivers were appointed by having people in his law firm saying, sue me and I'll confess the judgment so that you are first in time to collect on any money that I may or may not ever have. But he's clearly trying to help his friends. And yeah. Damn it, Amber. I live in Middle Georgia, and Lord help me with these bulldogs. My vet got offended when I asked if the University of Georgia dog is inbred. He acted like I punched a kitten and kicked his mother. Listen, the reason why bulldogs have so many issues, they have allergies, joint issues, their palates, it's because they're inbred. Okay? And if anybody denies that, they don't know anything about bulldogs. Any vet should be able to know that about bulldogs. But that's what makes them so lovable, is that they're absolutely ugly. Scott, maybe you're older and have less energy. Sad reality of yes. I tell you, that is not a... That is not a, what's the word I'm looking for? That is not a lie for sure. It's funny. I was thinking about this the other day, and I was talking to somebody, 30 didn't bother me. I was like, 30, I'm run through life. This is a piece of cake. I'll see you at the office at 5:30 in the morning. Yeah, I'll be done about 9 p.m. Good to go. Weekends, just go. Could handle all. Is that all you got? Next, bring it on. 40-ish, you're kind of like, maybe I'm getting a little tired. Maybe I could have done things a little different. But 50, that's when you have the epiphany, okay? And you ask to anyone who's ever been 50, I think they'll agree. They'll leave agrees with me. Like I said, 30, what do you do? Maybe you get yourself a little Porsche, right? 40, you get divorced, right? Whatever. But 50, you have that epiphany, all right, ladies and gentlemen. You have that epiphany where you realize you probably have less time on this earth than you've actually been here thus far, right? 30, you're like, I can make it to 60, no sweat. 40, I'll make it to 80, right? But when you're 50, you're like, do I have another 50 years in me? I don't know. It'd be nice, but yeah, people slow down a little bit as they get a little older. But as I told you last time, I had signed up for the Marine Corps Marathon, which is a great transition in what tomorrow is. But I had signed up for the Marine Corps Marathon, and it was like at least a year ago, I think. But it got continued because of COVID, and then it got continued because of COVID. And I'm able to roll over one more year. So hopefully this time next year, I will be competing and running in the Marine Corps Marathon, which is always the week after the New York Marathon, because there's some people that run it back to back. Yeah, and I've done 4 marathons in my life. I think I've got 5 in me, kind of one per decade, so to speak, I guess. But it was a lot easier when you were younger, I assure you of that. So I got to lose some of this obesity that I was able to pack on over the last 18 months and get back to it. My heel feels better. I'm feeling good. I think we can do it. I actually went running in Tampa, and not to digress too much because I know you want to talk about legal stuff, but I went out running. I don't know if you noticed Thursday, the video. I had a little nick on my chin right there. Yeah. Went out running. setting up my phone to start the little timer thing and put it in my pocket as I'm setting it up. Literally trip on the curb in front of probably half a dozen people. I fall, ditch the phone, fall on my wrist, my elbow. Oh my God. So embarrassed. Couldn't believe it. Unbelievable. I was just like, oh my gosh, like have that curb removed. That's ridiculous. And only thing that was really bruised, although I was sore for a couple of days, my knee, my elbow, my wrists, and my chin where I hit my face as well. But I felt so stupid that my pride was so injured that day. I was just like, I'm going to run. Doesn't matter. I'm going to go do this anyway. Oh, yeah, I felt it the next day. Yeah, so it happens. It happens. I'll just, let's see. Ms. Johnson, the one person who disliked Scott's live. Yeah. Needlesmith in Georgia. Being a veteran, what do you think of Prince Harry giving an award on Veterans Day to our service members? I don't know, but people that are going to recognize veterans for their service, I'm all for that. I think unless you've served, a lot of people really don't appreciate the sacrifices that you give up when you go into the military, whether you're an 18-year-old kid enlisting, because that's the only way you're going to be able to get a college degree, because you want to be an officer, and you have to be an officer to, you want to fly jets or whatever in the military. You give up a lot to do that. I mean, all the freedoms that we have, you don't have those when you're in the military. They tell you where to go, what time to get up, where to be. They can search your stuff just about at any time. You give all that up. And I haven't looked at a recent pay scale anytime recently, but I remember when I was on active duty years and years ago. I mean, the full-time pay for like a Lance Corporal was something like $12,000 a year. $12,000 a year where you could get shot at, blown up, killed, right? So I've said it once and I'll say it again. I would send everybody to boot camp when they were 18 years of age. That's just me. That's just me. But yes, and guess what? A great segue. Tomorrow, 10 November. That's right, 10 November, 1776. 246 years ago. Tomorrow at Tun Tavern in Philadelphia, the Continental Congress authorized the formation of a battalion of Marines, hence the commencement of the United States Marine Corps tomorrow. So if you see a Marine tomorrow, wish him a happy birthday, because he's got two birthdays, the day that he was born and the day of the Marine Corps birthday. So always remember that, never forget that. All right. Oh, what happened? Let's see here. I had a couple of things here. Let's see. Sue the curb, illegal curb. I felt so silly. I would have been embarrassed because it was completely 100% my fault. My fault. Wasn't paying attention. Debbie, I felt I did the same thing, but in Scotland in front of a dozen strangers, which is out of pub. Of course, that was before the drinking. Yeah. Arbery judge admonishment. I think there's been a couple of them in regards to basically the prosecution or the defense attorneys basically getting rid of black jurors. And I went through and I looked at it, and it's what they refer to as a Batson challenge. The prosecution cannot get rid of minorities, particularly minorities of the same race and ethnicity of a defendant. There was a Supreme Court case where I think they tried the case down in Mississippi like 7 times because the prosecutor always got rid of all the black jurors. And every time they had a black juror, it was a hung jury. But if they had white jurors, it got convicted. It kept getting reversed. And ultimately, they dismissed it because the United States Supreme Court said, this prosecutor is doing what you're not supposed to do. And, basically it looks like a racist. But I went back and looked, and obviously all the case law is the prosecution can't do it, but I don't think there's anything that prohibits the defense from doing it, from getting rid of the jurors. I mean, there's lots of things the state can't do, but it doesn't mean the defense can't do it. And if there's not a defense Batson challenge where the prosecution says, I think they're trying to get rid of black jurors. I mean, if the judge thought that they were doing that, they should have kept those jurors on the panel. But the judge let them go because, I mean, I'd have to take a look at that, but I really don't think there's anything that prevents, like, Judge, I don't like his peremptory challenge. I just don't like that particular juror. Prosecution has to articulate a neutral reason for it. The defense does not. But it's certainly not good when the judge calls you a racist. And I've won Batson challenges where I'm like, Judge, they're getting rid of all the minority people on my panel here. Note for the record, my client was a Hispanic male. There's been 4 Hispanic males, and they've gotten rid of first one, I let them go. Second one, that's a pattern. You can't do it. And I've had judges say, no, I'm not saying that the prosecution's a racist, but basically I'm have to say you're a racist, so that juror's not going to get dismissed. And that's always an awkward moment when that happens, because nobody likes to be accused of not being a fair and impartial person, and let alone a racist there. So you have to be, we'll see. The Arbery case is going to be interesting. I was just in the South, and I flew in I left Denver. I thought I was going to go see my daughter in Texas, but she had plans. It was the Halloween weekend. So I was like, fine, I'm just going to go straight to Mississippi, check on a property that I have there. And when I landed at the FBO, there was an issue. The rental car didn't come over. But the lady working there, Cheryl was her name, the nicest lady you'd ever met. Okay. And the FBO is where you land and they pay the gas, and they usually have services, and they just help you out, right? Nicest people you could possibly ever meet. And because people always, you hear people like, I love going to the South. And people are like, oh, isn't everybody down there a bunch of racists? They're all a bunch of racists. And I'm like, no, that's not what I see at all. No. So I go down there to Mississippi. This lady is so nice. She's like, listen, honey, if we can't get you your rental car over here, you can just borrow the crew car. You take it overnight. You don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. And I swear to God, Cheryl and the other gentlemen that were working there would have driven me to my hotel, put me up at their home, fed me dinner, okay? Because that's just the Southern thing to do. They were polite. So I do what I have to do. I run around. I got this car. I'm, driving around. And then I go over to the next kind of town over, because they had a cigar lounge. And I'm thinking, I got nothing else to do. I'm going to do sit and watch TV or whatever. Like, I'm going to go to a cigar lounge. They had one. I looked it up on my little cigar aficionado app. And I go over there, and it's like this liquor store in the back. They've got this huge humidor and this kind of a man cave thing. And we sit and we watch the Mississippi game. And I'm talking to the gentleman there. Very nice. Starts up the conversation. And we're sitting there. And I said, hey, the young gentleman you had working up front, I just want to let you know, I mean, that guy he was on it. He's a great employee. And the guy goes, yeah, I really want to keep him. He's great. He started out working for me in college. Or right before he started college. He's been going to college, but I understand he wants to move on. But man, he's great. I would love him to basically take over the business someday. Right? And this is an older gentleman in the South who's white. And the young kid that we were both talking about was a young black man. And he's basically acting like it's his son saying he is a great kid, great worker. I wish I could give it all to him. I wish I could keep him to stay. And I'm sitting there and I'm literally thinking to myself, there's so many people that are so ignorant that have never been to the South, and they just think that everybody's just some, wackadoo out there, racism, the Great War of Northern Aggression has never ended. We're just going to keep fighting. It's not that way. All right. They truly, everybody, it's just, people are just nicer down there. Now, I'm sure there are a bunch of bad, are there bad apples? Sure. There are anywhere. You can find them, I don't care how far north you go. They're going to be there, right? But it just shows you, here's a guy that probably this guy grew up when there was still segregation. But he's treating this young black man as his son and probably going to pass on, or wants to pass on, his fortune to him because he owned several businesses in town. So it reminds me when people are like, oh my gosh, there's only one black juror on the case for the people trying Ahmaud Arbery. And I keep thinking to myself, you know what? The jury's going to do the right thing. I really don't think they're going to look at it and say, oh, it's 3 white guys killed that young black man. He was totally justified. I'm telling you, that video of the dad and the son and old Roddy, was it Williams or whatever his name, chasing down Ahmaud Arbery with a shotgun, and he's trying to get away, and the son is, shoots him not once, but was it twice or 3 times? That's murder. And I don't care what color the jurors are, what color the victims are, or the color of the defendant. I'd like to think that we have come farther than that. I really do, and I think we have. And I know some people are worried, but I looked at that case early on, and those instructions, the law down there, I don't think they're going to get this whole we're making a citizen's arrest type of thing. It's just simply not going to happen. I think the jurors are now going to make the right decision, and it's the right decision is whatever they decide. If the prosecution's proven their case, it is their solemn oath and obligation to find the defendants not guilty. If they feel the prosecution has failed to prove their case, it is their solemn oath and obligation to say not guilty. That's just the way it is, right? If they've proven it, guilty. Not proven it, not guilty. It's just the way it is. Yeah. So we'll just have to wait and see. Oh yeah, and for people that don't, the Patreon. We have the Patreon show immediately following that for our Patreon members. And the reason reminded me of that is somebody put it up here, one of our mods, and big shout out to our mods like Jen Lowe and Dawn. Thank you for doing all you do. The mods do great. Don't give them any hassles. Although I think we've kind of weaned out the people that were looking to cause trouble every week, no matter what was said. But our mods do great. So, give them a break. So James wants to know the Magic 8-Ball question. Well, James, I don't know about that. We'll have to possibly tune in, but that's kind of political. We try to avoid politics on CrimeTalk, so we'll just have to wait and see. Let's see here. Emily. Ahmaud Arbery was not a hunting trophy to be pecked off with Bubba's shotgun. It's a disgraceful display. I don't know if there was more to that. It says disgraceful display. Yeah, and the other thing, that Roddy Williams guy, Roddy Williams, whatever his name is, he's the one that took that video on his phone, literally chasing Ahmaud Arbery down, blocking him in. And he gave it to his attorney. And the attorney turned it over to a news channel. I think it was a radio station to be exact. And they put it up on their website and it went viral. And then all of a sudden, people want to know what the hell was going on. Now, I don't know if that attorney thought it was a good idea to do that, but it sure didn't help old Roddy Williams. So I sure hope that attorney had that in writing, that it was okay for old Roddy for him to turn that over, Roddy's video, because that's what really got this case going. It wasn't going to go anywhere really until the video showed up. And I've always said it's the defendant's own words that are going to get him, and I think that's going to be the case. Everything that they said here. So we'll have to wait and see. James Bowman, I was in trouble, Scott, but I escaped, so I'm better now. Yeah, exactly, James. Our moderators are absolutely freaking amazing. That's right. Who thinks Josh Duggar's going away for a while? Christy Wolf wants to know that. Show of hands. I do. Duggar, Josh Duggar, rhymes with hugger. That's right. Scott, how can we get the Morphew trial moved out of small town USA? I don't know. I think a lot of people don't like old Barry Morphew up in old Chaffee County up there. And so, I don't know. Kate, Truth Seeker, thoughts on the Astroworld concert. Was Travis wrong for not stopping the concert or encouraging them to rage? What are your thoughts? Well, my understanding was that old Travis Scott thought that basically there was, if anyone's ever been, it's been a long time since I've been to a real concert where people are like totally partying and passing out and whatever, but people party and pass out. I went to the Avid Brothers concert here in Denver back in July, I think it was. And there were people that were like passed out. What are the performers supposed to do? Stop at every moment and say, ooh, get him some medical attention? They're there to perform. People are adults. This stuff happens. Now I saw somebody's going around like they think a lot of the people may have died because they took some bad pills, like fentanyl pills or something like that. I don't know. It's one of those we're going to have to wait and see. I certainly don't like it when the people sue. Before the bodies have even been released from the morgue, there's people that are filing lawsuits. Like, are you kidding me? Come on. Let's see here. I hope Scott answers this one. Let's see here. Let's see here. Be real. That was in poor taste, and the cease and desist took care of that. I'm not sure what they're referring to. Good evening, me too. Let's see here. Just looking at a couple more questions. Can't believe how fast our hour goes by. Burning Man Everything Must Festival Worldwide, do it right, just saying. I've never been to Burning Man, but I don't know. It seems a little weird to me, but, I'd go try it out. Only just got here, Scott. How do you think the case is going to go for Kyle, referring to Kyle Rittenhouse? I think he's going to be found not guilty of the homicides, guilty of the minor issues regarding the firearm. So I haven't made that clear. That's what my prediction is. We'll see if I'm right. Travis Scott was arrested in Arkansas and Chicago for inciting crowds to rush the stage. Houston Sheriff warned him issues a concert, and Travis managed the venue. Yeah, I don't know. At a certain point, not everything has to be an absolute criminal action. Sometimes in life just bad crap happens. And don't worry, I'm sure they had insurance, but somebody going to jail, it's not like they said, do this. At most it'd be a criminally negligent thing. So I hope if you're saying that everybody needs to be prosecuted for the Travis Scott case, are thinking the same thing when it comes to the whole shooting incident on the set for Rust with with Alec Baldwin, right? Some people, I'm sure it's a lot of saying, oh, that's terrible. He's Alec Baldwin. It was an accident. He didn't know. Well, okay, maybe Travis Scott didn't know. He didn't realize it, right? Remember, they have to be able to prove what's in your mind, right? Knowingly. That he says, hey, look, there's a bunch of people getting squished down there. Yeah, let's crank this up. Let's get things going. And he said, I didn't notice that. I didn't even realize. So how are you going to prove that case? You have to be able to prove that they intended to do something. So you have to prove their mental state. It's not just a really bad happened and they were there and so that was it. They have to be able to prove what they were thinking in their mind. And that's tough. And we've already made statements of, I didn't know that. Unless they have something to contradict that, I think it'd be tough to prosecute anybody on that. I mean, this is why they get insurance for that, because bad things happen, right? How many people were prosecuted for the Las Vegas concert shooting? Last I can recall, 0, right? What about the people all the door guys that helped this guy in? We mean he hid the guns going up. I think they paid close to like $1 billion or something, $500 million. In that case, they settled. It was private insurance money. So Catherine Smith, not criminal, but financial responsibility. Yeah, they're going to pay. The insurance company's going to pay once they figure out what these people died of. If they died of, taking fentanyl pills, the insurance company's going to say, not our fault. If you hadn't been on drugs, and this is what it comes down to at a certain point, ladies and gentlemen. At a certain point, some people have to accept responsibility for their actions, right? Like when I tripped over the curb, I could have said, you know what? That curb, it was dark out here. You should have had more lighting. You should have painted it yellow so that I could have seen it better. And better yet, maybe you should have put a nice smooth curb there so I never would have fallen. Because it's not really my fault. If you had done all those things, nothing would have happened, right? But there's some personal responsibility one has to take. I mean, I was in pain for a couple of days. I'm not going to lie. It hurt. It's still a little sore when I picked something up on my elbow, my shoulder there. But it was my fault. It's called personal responsibility. You go to dangerous places. You go to environments where there's a certain amount of personal responsibility that people have to take for their actions and being there, right? If you engage in dangerous activities, right? Oh, I'm going to jump out of airplanes. There's a chance something bad could happen. You go to a crowded concert, there's a chance I could get smushed, run over. It happens. You get in a car, you could get hit by somebody. It happens. So there's a certain amount of personal responsibility that people, I think, have to take. Yeah. Let's see. Glad nice having weather. Glad we had weather down in the nice weather. Now, Don, Mississippi, wonderful. South Carolina weather, wonderful. Tampa, Florida, wonderful until Friday, the day I left. It was absolutely storming. And I showed Frank this because I should have filmed it, but I did not. But I don't know if you can see this, but man, was it raining. Here, I'll just show you this. I'll just hold it up, see if you can see it. Right? I don't know if you can see that. Yeah. But that's what I could see as I was climbing out of Tampa International Airport. It was just raining the whole time. I mean, a good old storm. Not a false flag. Jesus. What's this? Oh my gosh, not a false flag. Jesus. What is that supposed to mean? That's not the first time I've heard of that. I don't know what that means. My parents were extremely cautious when I was growing up for a very reason. Very strict. There's something to be humbling. Astroworld was a false flag. Trying to get a concert stopped. Trying to stop our freedoms. Oh. Okay, I don't know what that means. We're not going there. But anyway. Yeah. So, Anyway, I'm glad we're able to catch up, ladies and gentlemen. I really do. Can you believe it's already been an hour? And I had so much stuff I was still going to talk about, but I guess we'll just talk about it in our Patreon show over the next hour. Want to thank everybody for joining with us this evening. And, if you haven't done so already, like, subscribe. Like I said, we're going to go take care of the Patreons, and by the end of it, we'll do the Magic 8 Ball. That's one of our little things that we do on the Patreon show. And if you're a Patreon, we also have a call-in number, so you can call in. And Frank has given me back my board. I didn't really use it today, but...
All right, lawyer.
I love that. Next on the docket. See, look at this stuff. I swear to God, I literally want to do this 8 hours a day. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. Seriously, this is what, ladies and gentlemen, can we get up to 1 million subscribers? Please? We do 1 million subscribers. I will literally sit my butt down in here. We'll start 8, 9 o'clock, and we'll go all day. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about, okay? 1 million subscribers, we'll be there. We're a little shy of that. I think we just hit 192, and that stretch from 191 to 192 had to have been the longest stretch for 1,000 subscribers. I was literally I'm thinking nobody watches anymore. I just don't get it. I don't get it. Whatever, if we change something, boy, we better change it back, because everybody, it was just very odd to me. Very, very odd to me. But I think after the Brian Laundrie story, I think a lot of people just needed a break. And I don't think people really think about it, but people become very emotionally invested in cases. And then when it kind of ends, I think it's almost like they need to decompress, or maybe it's almost like a little PTSD, right? I've seen this in jury trials. Defense, prosecutor, judges, we see this stuff all the time. Let's put up the next gory picture, please. Oh, here's a picture of the autopsy. Now show me how the bullet went in and scrambled around. But if you don't deal with that stuff every day, it can be pretty shocking and overwhelming. And there's literally cases where jurors, I've seen them, they're offered counseling services because, one, they've been truly invested in a case. It's emotional. It can be very traumatic what they've seen and what they've heard, and then just be like, all right, made a decision. Have a great day. We'll see you all. Bye. Right? And I think that's, the case here, even like the Brian Laundrie, like, oh, okay, yeah, he's dead. All right, let's shut it down. And I remember I don't know if I've ever told this story, but I had a case one day. I'm in court, and I get this call from a number that I don't recognize, but I answer it and hey, this is Detective so-and-so of the police department. We've got a little bit of a situation here, maybe a hostage situation, and, your client would like to speak with you. I'm like, oh, okay. So I tell the court, can I move this case up? They really want me to go. So I drive up there, and I talk to my client. And I thought it was a pretty good conversation. But, he wasn't coming out. And I'm up at the little command post, and, I'm the only guy not in SWAT gear. I got my suit on, and, think, this is going to be good. We'll get through this, and, we'll deal with this case. And there's some mitigating circumstances. And I don't know who to call. I'll get this detective and say, my guy was, willing to talk, and nobody got hurt, et cetera, et cetera. And then all of a sudden, things like a bunch of activities. And here in the distance would sound like fireworks going off. Pop, 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 pop. Then maybe like one or two, pop, pop. And my client, who had been, in a little situation, he had had a child with him. Anyway, the police went in and basically tried to storm the place, I guess. And he and the child were killed. I really think it was a murder-suicide type of thing. And, so I'm just standing there waiting, like, all right, is everything okay? Like, hey, my client, did you guys get him? He's going to be in custody tomorrow. I'll probably see him in court tomorrow, right? And they come up and they're like, yeah, it's over. And they start packing up, tearing down their little command center. And they're like, all right, you're good to go, sir. We'll see you later. Have a great day. Thanks for coming down. And you're just kind of like, huh. Wow, let's see. I was just talking to my client, less than 30 minutes ago. Now apparently he and his child are dead. All right, well, I guess I'll head back to the office. Like, I mean, where does that happen in the world, right? Other than maybe first responders or what have you. So yeah. It's just the way it is. Things change. So, all right. Thanks for watching. We'll see our Patreons here in just a few minutes. Have a wonderful night. We'll see you on Crime Talk.